Hey, this is Tyler White with TJX Survival. Let's talk about micro survival, Wazoo survival gear, and having equipment where you normally wouldn't be able to have it. So stay tuned. Let's talk about the problem and then let's identify the solution, okay? Everyone always says carry a lighter. Everyone always says carry a knife. Maybe carry a pistol for self-defense, but you can't always have that equipment with you. One perfect example is this. A few years ago, I spent a lot of time contracting in multiple foreign countries. Now, when I would travel from the United States to my end destination, I would go from one country to the next country to the next country. And each airport, each country, each location has a different set of rules. Maybe one of them will let you carry a 25-pound carry-on. One of them is 55. One of them is 85. One of them is no carry-ons. You have to check everything. So that starts to present problems with regards to weight and how much equipment that you can use. Even when I flew in the U.S. back to do filming in Michigan, flying with heavy knives and axes and equipment is really, really prohibitive. So, as an example, one country I went to, a lot of times you can check a knife. You just leave it in your bag and you pick it up when you get there. There are certain cities you can't have knives on you, certain countries, and certain places you are not allowed to fly into the country with a knife at all, to include in your checked baggage. There's also locations where you're not allowed to have a lighter. In the United States, you can check a knife and you can fly with a lighter, but a lot of places you can't do any of this stuff. So how do we legally and a little covertly do this in countries like this? Well, one of my solutions is I used this exact Wazoo survival belt. Okay, I use this one, and you can tell it's been through some serious use. This is the belt buckle that I use because I wanted something robust because I was going to have a pistol on my belt. And if you want any other type of heavy equipment, I don't know, knife, whatever, radios and stuff, you're gonna want something that's a little more rigid and something that has a solid belt. That doesn't mean that this belt buckle won't work, but this is more of a dressy looking belt buckle. It's kind of shiny and smooth, and you can hide a mirror on the inside of it. Now this mirror, kind of wedge it out. So I can use this mirror for search and rescue. There's two ways you can use this mirror. You can put it up to your eye, and you're gonna have the sun come in and it will create a little hologram where you flash the plane or whatever with that hologram. A much easier way to do that is if the sun's here, the sun comes down to my mirror, I reflect the sun on the back of my wrist, I put the target right there and I just go up and down and run that light up and down, and that way I know I'm flashing the target. The key is I can't do it from here, or otherwise the light's going sideways. I gotta do it right next to my eye so that I can kind of get some flash there, so that I can flash from the back of my hand to the plane and back. So that's a handy little tool. It's also kind of nice to have a mirror for shaving or for whatever you need mirrors for. Maybe you got something stuck in your teeth, something simple like that. And it's really handy to have that right here in the back of your belt. So let me put this away real quick. So they've got that nice mirror hidden in the back of the belt. Let's go back to this original belt. Now this one, like I say, this is the one that I traveled with, and I need to tear into it. I don't know if I pulled all the junk out of it. Yeah, I have pulled a lot of the stuff out of it. There's a rigid piece of plastic that's been added to this belt just to keep it solid for my uses. Yep, so there's a rigid piece of plastic, and there's also this nice little loop. This is good when you've got really small items that you don't want to use, or you don't want to lose. So this loop is nice. Maybe you've got a long piece of string that you want to attach a handcuff key to, or a shim, or something you don't want to lose. Maybe you got a house key or something important that you don't want to lose while you're reaching inside your belt. I kept $100 bills. I kept a lot of money in this belt because if I got into a situation that might have been kind of shady, I wanted the opportunity to buy my way out of that situation. It's also nice to have cash as a backup in case you lose a wallet or whatever. I also kept a copy of my passport in this belt because maybe if I lost my original passport or my visa, or if it got stolen or whatever, I have a picture of it, which gives me the ability to say, hey, this is really me. Here's the picture. I need an emergency visa to get out of the country or whatever. So that's the belt that I use. I've pulled most of the junk out of it. Let's set that off to the side because it's a little bit irregular because I had it specifically for my needs, and we'll just talk about the one that they sell specifically. So this is the Wazoo Survival belt. You can either move this rubber band from the left side to the right side, however you want to do it, and you can just detach this belt real quick, and it's super quickly adjustable. If you really want to take some length off, just cut it, burn it with a lighter, and it won't fall apart. Otherwise, you put it where you want, run it around your waist. Works kind of like those old school Boy Scout belts. Locks down, and then put it through this rubber band, and that's how the belt works. Now this belt is still loaded with equipment. It's one of the other belts that I wear that's a little more dressy looking. And as you can see, I've got some string right here, which gives me the ability to pull some escape and evasion tools out. You can put this string in, I don't know, maybe you got a pocket or a fold or a collar or something, but if you're gonna have escape and evasion tools, you want them in the front and you want them in the back. This is gonna be on the side. So if I pull on this little string, it's going to give me that little tool right there, which is a shim. And a shim and a saw gives me the ability to get out of handcuffs and that kind of things. And this is something smart if you're traveling in a place where you might get kidnapped a little more regularly than somewhere else. Maybe if you're in a barrio, Rio de Janeiro or something. There are different places in Colombia where you might get in the wrong taxi, and it's better for you to fight and escape up front than it is for you to try to negotiate some sort of a rescue later. So let me throw that back in there. And the reason I've set that up like that is it just looks like a piece of string, but if I'm able to bring my body to the side right here, I can pull that out and get a shim. On the other side, I can pull that out and get that out. And again, there's multiple ways to do this. So, digging into it a little bit deeper, survival is about fire, which is heat and cooking and sterilization, water, shelter, and food, right? Water is pretty self-explanatory. You might use the fire to boil the water. Shelter starts with your clothing, and it moves on to the, I don't know, a broken down car. A fire can create shelter. Eating food is shelter because your body radiates heat. Snuggling with the buddy. So there's a lot of other things. Shelter is just the ability to stay warm or cool when necessary. Food being something a little bit longer term. Obviously a rifle is one of the best ways to get food. You shoot it, you cook it, you eat it. But you can't always have a rifle or a pistol or some sort of firearm or even primitive weaponry with you. One thing you can pretty much take anywhere you want is 20 gauge brass wire. Now this is a little thicker wire right here, but you can stick this inside the brim of a hat. You can stick it in one of these Wazoo hats, which I'll come to in a minute. You can leave it in your belt. But if you're in an urban area, I mean, don't get past eating a cat or a dog in an urban area if there's a legitimate hardcore grid down situation and you need food. But having a little chunk of wire is super valuable. It's also good for repairing things and holding things together. And I don't know of any reason why you wouldn't be able to fly with this. Just tell them it's a piece of wire for fixing stuff and leave it right inside of your belt. Also, if you have any concerns or you're going to a country that it might be an issue, check before you go. It's better to stay out of jail because you didn't bring it with you than it is to try to ask forgiveness in that situation. Now, right here in this belt, let me talk about some of this kit. I'm going to back up a little bit. There's a ton of things you can stick in your belt. I will cover all this kit in a minute, but I'm going to kind of talk about this piece. These are little chunks of petroleum jelly and Vaseline. Everybody tries to light fires with lighters, and they're not always successful because it's not always about the spark or the flame. Sometimes it's about the tinder. One of the best pieces of tinder I've ever seen is actually rubber band. So that would be a good fire starter. Then my belt doesn't fit quite well enough. But having a little chunk of these guys right here with Vaseline and cotton, or petroleum jelly and cotton, is super valuable. You can throw that in there and it becomes a good fire starter. Now I have this guy right here, which are weights and some hooks and some string, and that's a little fishing kit, which is more food procurement. And I have this guy right here, which is a ceramic knife. Now, ceramic means it's not going to throw off a metal detector. However, it's probably still illegal. It's nice having that little piece of ceramic, which is ridiculously sharp on one side and rigid on the other. And if we transition to my Wazoo Survival necklace, which has a non-sharpened piece of ceramic and steel, this guy has been through the ringer. If I scrape some of this ferro rod, now this has got some major buildup on it. I scrape some of the ferro rod off, you can see throwing sparks just fine. But this little ceramic knife gives me the ability to cut things. And again, it's ridiculously sharp. It's still a knife. Don't think that you won't get in trouble if you get caught with it. So, you know, be your own, be smart with that. Don't use it illegally. But it's nice to have a knife or a cutting edge for opening packages, or I don't know, MREs, or maybe opening equipments and medical kits and whatever. And it's just a backup cutting edge that's nice to have in there. If you really wanted to make it a little more low key and get rid of this dog chain piece here and just have the ceramic piece, but I leave that in the side of my belt as well. I've got a compass here, which is really nice. When you go someplace that's flat in all directions, it's really hard to tell where north is. Here in the mountains, I don't need a compass. I can look at the mountains, I know where north is. It's pretty easy to navigate because most mountains run north and south with a few exceptions. If you learn about those exceptions and what side of the mountain to be on before you go to location, it's a non-issue. But if you go to a desert, sand dunes in all directions, if you go out in water, you go to the jungle, having a compass on you as a backup at all times is super valuable, especially if you can put it in this front pocket with quick access, and you'll be all right. Okay, the last little piece right here I've got, that is a handcuff key. It's plastic, so it's not going to throw off any alarms or anything. They would still be able to see this in some sort of a scanner, so it's not like you're going to hide it, but it's not going to make beeps. Okay, and again, I have the little string right here. If I pull that out on the left side, it gives me a handcuff key. That gives me a handcuff key and a shim for escape and evasion. And if you are going to use this type of tool, you need to learn what's being used locally. Maybe they don't have American handcuffs in the area that you go to. Well, you need to figure out what they do have and adjust accordingly. Okay, that's a basic setup. Handcuff key. One other thing I had in this belt that I removed is a piece of ferro rod. But again, if you're wearing the Wazoo Survival necklace, you've got a ferro rod and a ceramic piece right there. It looks like an artistic, you know, artistic necklace. I wore this in every country I went to. There's nothing illegal or wrong with having a fire starter on your neck, and it's not like it's hidden. It's sitting right there where people can see it, so you're not going to get in trouble for wearing something like that. They come in different variants. This is 550 cord with it's a fire cord, so it's got on the inside of it that flammable cotton type material, and it's also break free, so it pops apart. I don't want to cut it open because I don't need to do that. I like the look of the leather one. As you can tell, this one has been used and it's funky looking. It's had some time. And then this is a brand new leather one right there. Again, it's just leather ferro. If you have a little bit of bushcraft skill, you should be able to take some, I don't know, birch bark or juniper or wherever you're at and light a fire with the ferro rod necklace that way. If you want a little tinder, which again I just explained is very important, you can have it in the form of the fire cordage on the center of one of these necklaces. There's a couple of those options right there. Let's talk about this kit. Now, you're not going to put this whole kit in that belt and still wear the belt. It doesn't fit. Okay, that's a lot of stuff to have in a belt. I'm going to pop this open. Let me read some of this off real quick. We've got 2 safety pins, magnetized needle. That's awesome. We'll talk about that. Fishing hooks, 3 of them. Weights, 3 of them. Fishing line, 40 feet. A whistle, Technicord, 20 feet, 25 feet. 2 zip ties, 2 feet of duct tape, fire plug tinder, 2 of them, ferrocerium rod, ferro rod scraper, or that little ceramic knife would work. Water bag of 32 ounces. That's actually really handy. You may get one of those straws that you put in the water and drink it, but how do you carry extra water with you? We got to suck it out and spit it or whatever. Having the ability to transfer water with you is valuable. 2 purification tabs, 2 ranger bands, which are just rubber bands. Water pre-filter. This is in the adventure kit. Water pre-filter, aluminum foil, wire saw, flashlight, ceramic knife, compass, signal mirror, brass wire of 15 feet, and trail markers of 6. Okay, if you're going to the jungle, you're going to want a little bit different kit than if you're going to the desert. If you're going to the jungle, you're going to want a different kit than if you're going to the desert. If you're going to the mountains in the cold, you're going to want a different kit than if you're going to the valley. If you're going to someplace hot, different from someplace cold, someplace austere, which is a war zone, you're going to want more escape and evasion kit. Maybe you're going to Europe. I don't know. Got to check on the laws. The reason why I say all this is because it's nice to have a little bag that you can add and remove from your belt what you do and don't need. It's my understanding I can't have a handcuff key in some locations, so I'll just keep the shim or 2. If I can't have a shim, I'll figure something else out. So having something that you add and remove to stay legal without getting yourself in trouble is really smart in these different kits. Let's pop this guy open real quick. Merry Christmas. Okay, let's talk about all this stuff, why I would want it, what I can do with it. This cordage is extremely strong cordage. Some of the cordage you saw me use right here is a Kevlar cordage. The reason Kevlar cordage is nice is because you can use it to burn through things, so it's resistance to heat, but it will heat something else up. So you can use Kevlar cordage to cut through, I don't know, zip ties around your wrist or 550 cord or whatever you need to cut. So the cordage is nice. You can make, it's rope. You know what you can do with rope. Traps, fixing things, repairing things, rope's valuable. But it's also a thick bundle. I've kind of found when you're going to put this stuff on your hip, if you need to access it while you're wearing the belt, you need to put it like on the hip or just behind the hip. Maybe it would be something like a handcuff key. Got to be able to pull to the sides and stuff like that. So cordage. Cordage is nice. It's obviously going to be in a bit of a thick bundle. This doesn't mean you can't cut it into 2 bundles or move it around or shift it however you need. The other thing too is you're going to want to wear a little bit of the weight of the belt, if I can call it that, on the sides or center back where it bends, because your body is kind of squarish. You don't want a lot of kit right here on your hip bones. You don't want it on the back, especially if you're going to put a pistol or a waistband or something on there. You got to be smart on how you load this and shift it around. You might have to wear it once and then take it apart and shift it and rebuild it and wear it again to figure out where you want to get it. The other thing too is if you need quick access to it, you want it right here or right here. If you've got handcuffs on, you want to be able to reach here and pull it out, to reach here and pull it out, or you want it in the center back so you can have access to whatever it is that you're using. Duct tape. Duct tape fixes stuff, but duct tape burns. Duct tape is actually a really good dual purpose thing. Yes, you can use it to fix things, but I like the idea of duct tape for a fire starter almost more than anything else. I've been very surprised at how well it'll actually burn. So if you've got a ferro rod that you start some sort of kindling with, like maybe this petroleum jelly and Vaseline, then you have that duct tape warm up and dry out some sort of wet tinder. That's a good transitioning tool. Zip ties. Well, they call these trail markers. Yeah, these are trail markers. These are like the little things that you get on your bread. They pop off and they mark stuff down. Something like this is good for getting unlost or for having someone help you travel through an area. I personally probably wouldn't wear these very often. That doesn't mean that I don't see any value in them. Zip ties. Zip ties are nice for fixing things, especially from an automotive perspective. If you're ever doing any kind of overlanding or traveling in the backcountry, especially multi-days deep, it really pays to have a bag of zip ties and some duct tape. You can fix holes with it, repair hoses, put metal things back together, or just clamp them together. Sometimes it's like an automotive version of duct tape, but zip ties are nice. These little orange ones are nice. I would probably throw some bigger ones in it because then you can close it on bigger things, but zip ties are a smart move. Okay, these are the Ranger bands, which we would call rubber bands. Basically, a Ranger band is just tubing from a tire or tubing of some sort. They are good fire starters. Again, I keep coming back to fire starting because it's so important. A lot of people will take a lighter on a green tree and wonder why the fire won't start. Well, it's because it's green. However, in the jungle, we use chunks of rubber tire to dry out the material, and we had fire started really quick every time. I like how they've wrapped it around this 32-ounce bag and put the K9 water purifier in there. These are little tablets of chlorine. So what you'd do with this is you'd open this up, open up the bag, put a tablet of chlorine, and the instructions are on it. Fill up the bag, shake it up really good, wait a half an hour. You can add more chlorine if you think it really needs it. The half an hour is to kill everything on the inside, to let the solution dilute so that it kills everything. If you have any concern about it being too overchlorinated, it's better for you to let it air out and be in the sunlight. The ultraviolet rays will break down the chlorine, and the chlorine will off gas. That way the chlorine entered and killed everything, and then it got out, so it's not going to mess you up and mess up your kidneys. So you should be able to just follow the instructions and be okay. But again, if you have any concern, add more, wait longer, let it off gas, and you'll be able to come up with a good drinking solution right there. Okay, this is more of that Kevlar cordage. Again, really valuable because it cuts through things, and valuable because it's Kevlar. It can be used to tie things together, and it can be used to sew clothes together and whatever you want to do. Very valuable piece right there. This is some of that wire. I like the bundle that I showed you, only it's in this little plastic piece, which is nice because it kind of keeps it together. I'm just looking at this like trapping material, right? I can make snares and primitive traps. And if I really want to make multiples, I'll put this string on one end and then maybe about 2 or 3 feet of loop for the snare. That way the animal that gets caught isn't going to bite through. Most of the time can't bite through the metal, and then the string can be used to be added to an engine or a hook of some sort or whatever. Fire saw. These are actually the old ones that we used to get in those Rambo knives that sucked. This is not them. These are actually fairly quality saws. What I like to do is to add a saw, instead of doing, you know, one of these things where it goes back and forth, right? You do the two-handed thing. I like to make it rigid with sticks. Make a bow or make a bucksaw of some sort and make this piece be the blade, so it just pulls it on both sides. That way it's sawing sideways like this instead of bending and bending and bending. It's the bending motion that ends up destroying saws like this. So if you can make them rigid on both ends with a bow stick, or make an actual bucksaw out of it with some string, you'll get a lot more cuts out of it. You might even get 1 or 2 cuts of metal out of this before you destroy it. So something to think about. The fishing kit, again, it's a couple sinkers, some hooks, and some safety pins. That's really nice because that gives you the ability to do fishing. Most of the time you can't go to a location that another human hasn't been to or hasn't fished. Yes, they exist, but they are the exception, not the rule. Because of this, if you pay attention, spend some time walking up and down the banks, you'll find flies in trees where some fly fisherman has backcasted and broke his fly off. You'll find areas where the whole river washes all the contents of the river up into one pile. You'll pull hooks out of there. You'll pull bundles of fishing line, all sorts of stuff. You can always supplement that with something like this. This also has a needle in there. Can't see, there's a needle right there. And if it's a magnetized needle, all that you're going to do is put it on a leaf. This is not a leaf, but it's my pretend leaf. Put your magnet on that leaf and then put it on water, and it will spin and point north and south and give you an idea of where north and south is. Okay? Or you can take the compass with you. Another way to do that. If you've got a broken compass, you can put that broken piece of compass on on a leaf on the water, put it in a bag, put it in a cup. That'll give you your north. Let's empty this little bag out. Whew, that's some fat rich. Okay, so this is a fire starter. Fire starters are almost always two things: fat and fibers, right? A candle is fat around a fiber. Fat wood is fibrous wood with fat ingrained on it. Petroleum jelly is fat and fiber. This is basically also fat and fiber. I dare say you could probably get 3 fires out of there if you have flame. So these are 2 little fire starter plugs. They're nice to have. Again, you can use the chunks of rubber if you want multiple fires and you're going to go to a location where you want fire after fire after fire. Bring multiple chunks of, just get an old road bike tire, chop it up in a bunch of chunks, throw it in your belt. Right? So you got options here. This is a hefty little fire starter, which is really nice. Actually got some meaty ferrocerium here so that you can get more than a few fires out of it. And this is another one of those nice ceramic knives. If I can roll this piece of rubber back. Got a ridiculously sharp blade on one side. And let me show you how sharp that is. I touched it. It was shocking to me. You guys can see this right here. Just carving that little piece. That's a very sharp little blade that can also be used as a fire thrower. Right? We just disconnect it and throw some sparks off that. Right? That's your fire thrower. The good thing about this is if someone asks you about that, you can just say, hey, that's just a fire striker right here, right? Might be able to get away with having a blade and a fire striker at the same time. Put that back together. So that's a handy double tool. Here's a flashlight. That's nice. Have a phone. If your phone dies, you got a light. Have a battery kit. I mean, if you got a phone and a battery that'll last you a week, then you have no excuses. But if that runs out and you need longer term options, this is a great way to start a fire in the dark, or a great way to come up with that little solution. And then the whistle, that's pretty loud. Even says Wazoo right on there. Wazoo. That's awesome. So there's a light, whistle, and the compass. I don't need to tell you why compasses is important to have. Little compass. Okay, let's talk about the hat. This is my hat that I've been wearing quite a lot. This is a newer replacement version of it. And then this one's the old hat that I've been wearing for years. The old one's got some pockets on the side here and a nice pocket right on the bill. What are some things that I would put in this? Well, I like the ceramic knife and the ferro starter and the fire starting. That would be really, really smart. Maybe even in conjunction with the necklace, right? And then the compass. So if I had a kind of a minimum amount of stuff, I would probably go with fire, maybe water, shelter I'm going to make on my own. There's no reason why you can't have the reflective mirror in your belt, and some sort of food procurement, and then maybe throw in some ropes. So at a minimum, I think right there would be my kit. 2 forms of fire with fire restarting, water, purification, navigation, food, and signal to get rescued, so none of that stuff matters. That would be kind of the basics I've done. Okay, back to that hat. Squirreled a little bit. So this is one of the brand new hats. I like to show you this because it still shows you the pocket sleeves right there, right? So it's got the Velcro on my other one here. It's got some nice Velcro right there that you can go ahead and put, you know, your wire, maybe put a compass in there, right? Put survival mirror, whatever you want. And then it has a nice, more adapted pocket right here in the top. This is a great location to put maybe extra cash. This is a good location to put some identification, secondary identification. Maybe get a piece of plastic and put a copy of your, maybe even a second copy of a passport in there, whatever you want. So if you really want to carry all this stuff and you have one hat and one belt, you can carry all of it. If you only need a little bit of it, you want to be transitional, you can be transitional. If you want some redundancies, like maybe someone steals your hat, you've still got your belt, now you're hiding stuff in multiple locations. You can even hide stuff in multiple locations on your clothing, in the folds and in areas like that. Okay, the very last thing I want to cover real quick are some of these bandanas. Wazoo was really smart in the way that they built these bandanas. Like, I'm going to be using a bandana. Whoop, whoop. I use them for temperature control, right? In the desert where it's dry, if you have a wet bandana on your head, that evaporative cooling keeps you cooled down. A lot of people are wearing it because of corona on their face. But it's nice to have a mobile plant identification device on here. We've got, let's look at all this stuff here. It says uses of this bandana for foraging, glove for grabbing through thorns, needles, and other pokers. You can actually be cooking some metal container on a fire and just use it to grab it and move it if it doesn't have handles. So there's a lot of valuables. If you're gathering wild edibles, you can load it up into a bundle, tie it in a string from a tree so the rabbits and the squirrels don't steal your stuff. But the good thing about one of these bandanas is it kind of identifies, this is what a prickly pear looks like. That's cattail. You can eat those ribones of the cattail. This is willow. Willow has salicylic acid for headaches. It's good for making tools. Burdock, you can eat the roots. You gotta cook them if you can. Starchy. Dandelion's very good. It's a diuretic. Makes a tea. Yarrow makes a good tea. Stops bleeding. Man, there's a lot of stuff in here. Turkey tail mushrooms, maple trees, stinging nettle. Stinging nettle has protein and vitamins and all sorts of stuff. You can add it to soups. So it's got a lot of nice identification tools on it, and they've got another bandana which I don't have with me that has footprints on it, so you can identify the difference between a cougar and a domesticated dog and figure out what's stalking you. Alright guys, that was a lot of information, right? I just dumped a ton of information. I hope that's valuable to you. If you're interested in any of this stuff, check out Wazoo, and hit the pause on the video and take a picture of that little link if you want. Go get yourself a hat, get yourself a belt. I would say get the nice big adventure kit. Use what you want to use, add to it, take what you want out of it, kind of make it your own like I did. Okay, if this was valuable to you, hit the subscribe button. Leave comments down below with questions. Tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't like. I do try to respond to everything. And thank you for watching TJack Survival.